More women than ever before are choosing to start their own businesses. Our figures show this has grown by 42% since 2010, with almost a third of all new businesses being started by women. What's behind this boom? We decided to speak to 3 successful female founders to find out why they decided to go it alone.
What prompted me to take flight was something that I would never have considered. If you'd said to me 4 years ago, Miranda, you're going to be running your own business and it's going to be successful, look at the shock, I would have said, yeah, go away, go and get a cup of tea, I don't believe you. That change came about for several reasons. There was one, I've been at the BBC for 24 years and it was great, but I'd got to the point where I was feeling I probably done enough there. It was lovely, but I'd done my time. But that converged with the fact that my daughter, and we're based in Sussex, was starting to go to school and I was commuting. So there was a logistical part of realising I would either never see my daughter or never see my boss, and never the two shall meet. So there was that. And just that feeling, right at the end of my BBC career, I set up a series called Women in Business for Women's Hour, which charted 3 fledgling businesses and matching them with 3 high-flying mentors. And for the first time in my life, I thought, I'm not going to apply for another job. I'm going to try and do it myself.
I've been doing PR consultancy for quite a few years now. Started out in large agencies in London, moved to some smaller agencies, helped grow them. I live in Brighton, I love Brighton. I wanted to do my own thing in Brighton, hence I set up my own business, as I say, just over 5 years ago. Having worked for lots of other people for a number of years, I learned a massive amount. I also learned how I wanted to do things slightly differently from an organisational point of view, from a cultural point of view, and actually in terms of how campaigns are delivered and what could be achieved. So I guess I felt that I'd got to a stage in my life where I could do it for myself. I also got to a stage in my life where I had a family, and I had a very strong urge to have more control in terms of how I lived, that kind of classic work-life balance, which doesn't necessarily exist for anybody. But I felt like if I had more control and over the power of my day-to-day work, I could make it work much more effectively. So it came after I'd had children, and I wanted to make it work to make sure that I could deliver the absolute best for my clients and manage my workload and my time load effectively.
For many, the opportunity to break free from the 9 till 5 and enjoy a better work-life balance is the reason for starting their own business. For others, it's the chance to follow a lifelong passion, and that's the driving force. We went to see Fiona Martin, who told us what inspired her community law firm, Martin Sales Solicitors.
I wanted to be a revolutionary, and at Sussex University I was elected as an officer, and I led everyone with other sabbaticals into occupation, where we had to then deal with a disciplinary process. There were 48 of us, and we worked with the law centre, the local Brighton Law Centre. And I think I decided that as a revolutionary, if I was going to get into that sort of trouble, I needed to know my law. I went from that person that broke the law to someone that went to law college and now has a community law firm.
Whatever the reason for starting, female-led businesses face many of the same challenges as any other business. Market positioning, operational problems, and the sudden lack of support network are all frequent problems for new businesses.
We've had huge challenges. I think we're probably the law firm that probably have set up and been in the wrong place at the wrong time. We had to completely change our business. We originally set up to do bulk legal aid housing work with Brighton Housing Trust, and fixed fees came in, changes to legal aid, and it meant it was no longer financially viable to do that. So we had to turn our whole business model around. It was very painful giving up legal aid work because we believe in access to justice. And out of that, what we decided to do was this huge community engagement programme, so that although we couldn't do the public funding work, what we could do is free work to make a difference to people who can't afford legal advice normally.
One of the challenges I faced in the beginning was working out what it was about my experience that people wanted to buy. And I think a lot of people starting businesses will think about what they're selling. Oh, I'd love to do this, and yes, I want to interview people, or I want to sell bootlaces or whatever. But it will take time. You have to realise you might have to change that depending on what people want to buy from you. So I think the biggest challenge for me was working out exactly where I was in the marketplace, which is a marketplace of content production. I produce written materials, films, audio. It's very competitive, it's growing, and I had to work out exactly who my customers were, where I fitted, and crucially, how I was going to sell my expertise. So I think one of the biggest challenges was learning how to market myself, ironically, because that's what I help other people to do. I help other people to stand out through their stories. I think the biggest temptation when you're starting out is trying to do everything yourself. And when you've just started out, often that's all you can do because you haven't got the money to employ other people to do the bookkeeping, to do the secretarial work, to do the bookings for you. So it's understandable. But there does come a point when you get your first customers that you have to realise you have to let go of some of those in order to concentrate on the jobs that will gain you new business.
There's been a ton of challenges, and probably the biggest one is leaving the business behind, actually, and letting it overtake every other element of my life. And I think the hardest thing is you don't necessarily have a mentor, a boss to help shape you and develop you in that way, and to manage your own, other areas of your life that need time. So I have definitely let the business take over too much. I've learned to try and pull it back in and try and create some structures within my life to have space and time so that it's not completely taking up every sort of element of my brain. But it's a work in progress.
Running your own business is one of the most rewarding experiences you can have in your career, and the vast majority of business owners would agree they could not return to being an employee after experiencing entrepreneurial success.
Being the mistress or the master of direction, but not necessarily your destiny. You never know what's going to happen next when you're running your own business, to be honest. But at least you can shape the direction you go in. And by that I mean you probably will have loads and loads of different skills, and it will take time for you to realise which of those skills you really enjoy using and which of those skills, crucially, people want to buy from you.
I think it's the control. I think for me and Kate, we have very similar ethics and values. I think we do live and breathe them, and I think that is really important. This isn't just about a firm that makes money. It is a law firm that we're proud of, and I think it does make a difference, particularly around the community engagement work we do in the city and beyond.
There's real satisfaction in being directly related to developing campaigns, to coming up with those ideas, to implementing them, to then seeing the success that brings to our clients. I've always found that really satisfying, and I'm very hands-on and involved in that. Building teams around me, seeing people that are joining and developing their careers, and absolutely personally developing from a business point of view, and then watching how that talent can be kind of unearthed and grown, and seeing the success and the satisfaction in those teams is fantastic.
It's no surprise that more and more women are choosing to start their own business. Research we conducted with OnePoll shows that women are better able to deal with the stress of business ownership. On the whole, the move to self-employment makes female entrepreneurs happier than their male counterparts. If you're thinking about starting your own business, the inspiring entrepreneurs we've spoken to have one piece of advice: go for it.